Hi, this is Stephanie Lotvin of Tellybean Knits, and today I'm going to show you how to work the cable cast-on when you're working the back yoke border or the front yoke border of your Bright Axis tee. Whether you're doing the fingering weight version of the Bright Axis tee or the DK weight version of the Bright Axis tee, this is going to help you get those stitches on your needles so that you can work your back or front yoke border. I'm currently working on the DK weight version, which will be coming out later this summer in 2025. I'm really excited about it. And I am ready to cast on the stitches for my back yoke border. I have here my contrasting color, my self-striping yarn, and I am at the point where I have finished the body, I finished the back yoke shaping, and I'm ready for that back yoke border. Right now I have the right side of my work facing me. You can see I have half of my stitches on hold. These are my front stitches, and the other half of my stitches are currently on my needles. These are my back stitches. If you look at my work, you can see that my live yarn is coming from the left-hand side of my body. And I'm going to begin working and casting on those stitches on the right-hand side, with the right side of my work facing me. Okay, I'm going to begin by scooting my stitches down to the end of my needle, and I'm just keeping those stitches sort of spaced out on my needle. I don't want those stitches all scrunched together towards the end of my needle. I'm going to have some space between those stitches. You can see there's a little bit of space between those stitches, and I'm just going to bring my other needle from the other end of my work around. And so now I have my stitches scooted up to the end of my left hand needle, and my right hand needle is ready to start casting on my stitches using my contrasting color. I'm going to grab my self-striping yarn. This is my contrasting color, and I'm going to begin by inserting my right hand needle between the first two stitches on my left hand needle. So I'm going to go from front to back and insert that right hand needle between the first two stitches on my left hand needle. I'm going to create a little loop. You can see I'm just folding my yarn in half so that I can catch that on my right hand needle. I'm just folding that in half, and my tail is only about 6 inches long. I want that tail to not be too much longer than 6 inches. I want to be able to weave that end in later, but I also want to make sure that I'm not using too much yarn because this self-striping yardage is really precious and I want to have as much of it as possible for knitting. So I'm just folding that yarn in half so I can catch a loop with my right hand needle. And now I'm going to press down gently with my right hand needle so I can create some space between my right hand needle and my left hand needle so I can pull that loop through to the right side of my work. So now I have a loop in my contrasting color on my right hand needle, and I'm just going to carefully place that on my left hand needle. I've just cast on my first stitch using the cable cast on. Now you're going to be tempted at this point to pull that loop really tight, but try to avoid that temptation. We want to keep that loop relatively loose so that there is still space between what are now the first two stitches on my left hand needle. I'm going to go ahead and insert my right hand needle from front to back between the first two stitches on my left hand needle once again. And now I'm going to grab my yarn. Be careful to move your tail out of the way. You don't need that now. And just work with your live yarn that's coming from your yarn ball. Wrap your yarn knitwise. And then once again, gently push down to create some space between the right hand needle and the left hand needle. Don't push too hard because you could stretch that first stitch out quite a lot. And bring that stitch through to the front of your work. Make that a rather loose stitch, and then place that from your right hand needle onto your left hand needle. I'm going to keep that relatively loose. If it's really, really big, you can gently pull that in, but make sure you have enough space between the first two stitches on your needles that you'll be able to insert your right hand needle again. If you're having trouble finding space between those stitches because they do start to tug on each other and overlap, just take your index finger on your left hand and place that between the 2 stitches to spread those out. And I'm going to show you this one more time. So insert your needle from front to back between the first 2 stitches on your right hand needle. Wrap your yarn knitwise. Press down gently with your right hand needle and then bring that loop through to the right side of your work. Place that on your left hand needle and you've just cast on a stitch using the cable cast on. So we have 3 stitches cast on. So 1, 2, 3. And I've got my tail right back here and my live yarn, and I'm ready to continue casting on stitches for my cable cast on. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial.